Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to today's live session. We are on day 20 today. It's already been 4 amazing weeks of coming here every single day, Monday to Friday, and getting this chance to talk to you, to communicate with you, and to have these incredible conversations that we are having here every single day. And as I said to you yesterday at the end of it, today is going to be really special. And here's why I said that, because today we're going to address a concept or a topic or a way of living that's extremely close to my heart. And that is about how do we love ourselves and how do we truly lead a life of love. Because I'll tell you where this comes from. There's a very powerful story, and the day I realized why self love is actually the most important thing we can build in ourselves, regardless of whether we are struggling in our careers, in our relationship, in our health, or in any other area of our lives. Love is the answer to it all. And I believe that by the end of these 15 minutes, you will join me in the love club as well and start leading your life from that emotion. So, a few months ago, I was having a coaching conversation with somebody. He was about 25 years old, and he was really struggling in his relationships. I mean, with his parents, with his sister, with his girlfriend, with so many different people, he had struggles. And the core of that struggle was the fact that he had all these ideas about what love was, what love meant, but he had no idea how to love himself. And I explained to him that, think about it. If you have no love within, if you have nothing to give in the form of love because you don't know what it is, then what you're doing essentially is you are empty within, you are going to someone else who's empty within themselves, and you're asking them, can you please fill my cup with love? Now that doesn't make any sense, right? Two people with two empty cups, can they really give anything to each other? They can't. But when it comes to love, when it comes to relationships, when it comes to living our lives every day with a sense of empowerment, all of us have empty cups. We are struggling. And the struggle was pointed out to me in this very beautiful question that he asked. He said, look, Prabha, I understand what you mean by self love. I understand it as a concept, but what does it really mean as an action? Like when I think self love, there's no image that comes to my mind, there's no action step that comes there. There's nothing I can imagine that I would say, okay, this is self love. And in that moment, I realized, oh my God, there are so many people, so many of my friends, so many of us who know the importance of these concepts, who know that yes, I need to love myself. If I don't love myself, nobody will. But do we have any idea of what loving ourselves even really means? None at all. And it's actually very simple. I'm going to introduce it to you today, but I wanted to tell you this very specifically because think about it. All our lives, we keep chasing this one thing in the form of appreciation or acknowledgement or respect or awards or good relationships at home. We keep chasing the feeling of being loved, the feeling of being seen, the feeling of being the kind of person that matters, because that's what love gives us, that wholeness, that completeness. And the biggest mistake we make is thinking that it lies with someone else. It's like that. I don't know if you've read the book The Alchemist. I believe everybody in the world should read that book at least once. But the whole story goes like this, that the shepherd, he travels all across the Sahara desert, he travels all across looking for a treasure, looking for wisdom, only to find that the treasure was from the place where he started at. He didn't have to travel anywhere, he only had to look within. And when it comes to love, when it comes to embodying love as an everyday emotion, we make the mistake of looking for it in people, in situations, in work, in any and everything but ourselves. And that is why we suffer in love. I don't agree with this saying that love is suffering or love is painful or that love comes with hurt. No, it doesn't. Love can come with loss, love can come with grief, love can come with people coming together, with people going away. But does that mean you have to suffer through it all? Does that mean you have to sit sad for 3 years because someone you thought was your beloved left you, and now you're all alone and you're all sad and you've no idea what to do in your life? No. That's a false idea. That's the false romanticization of love that we see all around us. And it sells as a good story. But my question is, does that empower you? It does not. It only keeps you limited in this idea where you start believing that other people can love me, but I need them to love me. There's a difference. Other people can love you. Of course they can. But is it a guarantee that they will? Not always. You never know. So if you're always dependent on them, then who are you becoming yourself? See, we never think about this question. And that is why self love matters. That is why developing this core, this abundance of love inside matters first. Because even before you get into a relationship, or if you're already in one, or even if you're just doing a job and focusing on your career right now, you have no idea the kind of unlimited energy you can unlock when you step into love. See, we think of energy from the lens of motivation. We think of energy from this idea that I'm inspired, I'm driven, that's where I'm getting the energy from. But I want you to lean in closer for this, because this is a truth that's really gonna make a lot of sense to you. Inspiration or motivation or power are not the real source of empowerment and direction and action. Love is. Because love is intrinsic, love is deep within. Love is a force that does not depend on mood, that does not depend on feelings, that does not depend on hurt. It just is. And when you have that in abundance for yourself, the magic that happens is you can give it in abundance, you can receive it in abundance, and everywhere where there once was a drought of love, you will start feeling a flood of love taking over your life. Not because you suddenly have 10 romantic partners and every single one of them wants you, no, but because you are going to finally start having that love for yourself. And as I learned from that question my coachee asked me, I knew for a fact I've got to make this practical. I've got to make this easy and implementable so that we can embrace this self love, we can embrace this empowerment and take action on it in our lives. So, while we go towards that, I hope the base is clear and you understand why I'm approaching this conversation from the lens of love. Because when we have abundance of it, we tap into the unlimited energy that exists within us. I want you to see a glimpse of that and you're going to experience it. So stay tuned as I'm telling you the next steps. They're super practical, they're super easy to implement, and you will actually understand what does loving yourself really mean. So there's a simple definition that we can begin with. Loving yourself means treating yourself lovingly. I know that sounds like a double statement, but let me break it down for you. You see, love is not just a feeling, it's an action, it's a verb, it's something you do. And the way you do that is simple. You take the actions where you're treating yourself lovingly. And that's very different from pampering yourself. That's very different from pitying yourself. That's very different from making yourself a victim. And I'll help you understand the difference between each one of these. You see, the biggest mistake we make is when we think of self love, the only thing that comes into our mind is relaxing at the end of the night, sitting on the bed or lying down with her eye patch and some skincare and a good music or a good movie or a book in our hands. And that relaxation is what we label as self love. That's a part of it, but that's more self care, where you're giving yourself the time to rejuvenate yourself to come back stronger. Nothing wrong with that, but that definition of only pampering yourself, that's a very limited way of looking at self love. Because think about it, all the people in your life that you love, do you pamper all of them? No, you don't. But sometimes you got to be tough on them. Sometimes you got to have that hard conversation with them. But you love them, that's why you do it. Pampering is safe. Pampering yourself is a comfort zone. That's not love, because love is built on honesty and authenticity, even when that honesty and authenticity is hard. So that's one thing that loving yourself is not. The other thing that loving yourself is not is pitying yourself. Because when you're pitying yourself and when you're saying, oh my God, I'm the unluckiest, things really don't work for me, in that moment, you do not need your sympathy. You do not. You need your kindness and your love to be able to say to yourself, you are more powerful than this. Get back up, get back on track, take the action. That may sound like a harsh thing, but if you really think about it, right, that's one of the most loving things you can do for yourself. Because what's actually going to solve the challenges and the problems that you are going through? Is it going to be your negative thoughts and your pity and your overwhelm? Or is it going to be your ability to bounce back with strength, with love, with joy, and to make things happen? It's going to be the second one. So that's what loving yourself means. And finally, loving yourself means treating yourself lovingly. That means asking yourself just this one question. This one question, I believe, makes self love very easy, very practical, very important. If you want, you can write this question down as well. Personally, it's been helping me embrace this and take action on this. So, love, the word we associate it with mostly romantic relationships. But one of the most purest forms of unconditional love that exists is the love that a parent has for their child, especially when the child is very young and dependent on them. So, in that age, when the child is, let's say, a 4-year old kid or a 5-year old kid, parents just love them for the sake of it. Is the child going to make mistakes? Yes. But are the parents going to always, be in a army kind of zone and beat the hell out of the kid and make all these things? No, 90% of us don't do that. We treat the kid lovingly. Does that mean we give the kid chocolate 24 hours a day because the kid wants the chocolate? No, because we know that's not a helpful action for the kid. We know that's not going to help the kid become his or her best version. And so even when we have to be a bit tough, even when we have to draw the line and draw the boundary somewhere and say no, we do it with love. Because the action does not matter, the intention does. The intention there is to nurture, the intention there is to empower, and the intention there is to help. So even if the child sits there and cries because the parent has refused to give the child 20 bars of chocolate that he or she wanted to eat in just 2 hours, the parents are okay with that, because they know they are loving the kid in that moment. It's not an act of hate, it's not an act of pain, it's not a sadistic thing that they're doing, they're loving. This right here is love in action. So the question that you have to ask yourself is, in this moment, if I were a 5-year-old kid, how would I treat myself with love? Be that parent, be that guide, be that nurturing force for your inner child and for your soul. And do it with the intention of nurturing, with the intention of empowering, with the intention of helping that child, helping that inner version of you go from being a scared, timid little kid to a full grown, confident, ready to take on the world adult, where you nurture the best parts of you and you consciously work on the parts of you that are not so good, not because you hate them. Listen to this very carefully. You'll consciously work on the parts that are not good, not because you hate them, but because you love yourself so much that you cannot bear to see yourself in that situation. Your standards with the love is just way too high. If somebody loves their kid, will they allow that kid to just sleep out in the night wherever the kid wants and to be in the mud and to be unhygienic? No. The parents are going to have that standard. They're going to make sure that the kid is clean and the kid is learning everything and that the kid is provided for. That's love in action. But when your health suffers, when your relationships suffer, when you consciously sabotage your career growth just for the sake of comfort, or when you dive deep into addictions like alcohol or drugs or cigarettes or anything else that we can term it as an addiction, is that really a loving act to yourself, or is that a sabotaging act to yourself? You may believe you're doing it for comfort, you're doing it for relief, but actually you're doing it out of lack of self love, out of hatred for yourself. Because if you truly loved yourself and you knew how to treat yourself lovingly, you wouldn't do that, because you know it. Hey, wait a minute. I love myself too much than to let that cigarette destroy my lungs for the rest of my life. Nothing wrong with smoking a cigarette. Again, I'm not saying that you should not do it. Nothing wrong with drinking alcohol. If you believe that's an act of love for you, go ahead, do it. That's not the judgment I'm making here. All I'm saying here is, if you are going to treat yourself lovingly, you will be able to make these decisions effortlessly. And that's the essence of self love. The biggest barrier that I encounter whenever I have this conversation with someone is, well, if I love myself, I'll just go lazy and I'll never take any action in life. Well, try it for a day, try it for 2 days. I'm telling you, you won't do that. That laziness, that overwhelm comes from self hatred, from self criticism, and from not feeling good enough. But the moment you really start to love yourself the way you are, and you start to treat yourself lovingly in the actions that you take, as if you're nurturing a 5-year-old kid to grow up and become his or her best version, making the right choices with love is going to be easy for you. You, when the alarm rings in the morning and you have to decide between exercising and between sleeping in the bed for the next 30 minutes, you're going to choose the exercise, because you know that's not an act of pain, that's not an act of suffering, that's an act of love for myself. It's a completely different energy that you're going to approach your work from, that you're going to approach your task from, that you're going to approach your entire life from. So that's what I want to leave you with today. Love yourself, and loving yourself only means treating, nurturing, and empowering yourself lovingly, where even the hard things you do with love, even the hard and honest conversations with yourself and others, you have them with love, with the intention of growth, with the intention of serving and adding value and empowering yourself and others along the way. If you think about it, coming here live every day is an act of love for me. Doesn't take effort, doesn't make me feel another life. No, I love doing this. Why? Because I love myself, I love the growth that I'm experiencing, and I love adding value. This for me is an act of self love that rejuvenates me. Like this, I want you to think about this tonight before you sleep. What can you do to start proving to yourself that you love yourself, and not just the surface level thing? Go really deep, have that honest conversation, and I'm telling you, self love is going to become the most practical thing for you. Inside you, you're going to be filled with confidence and happiness and joy and success and love and whatnot. And that's what you're going to attract in every relationship, every connection, every opportunity that you work through. I'm telling you, the way the doors of success and abundance open for you when you act from the energy of love is something you cannot even imagine it right now. So don't believe me, don't disbelieve me, try this out, see the magic you can create, and I'm telling you, you are going to come back and you're going to say, yes, I'm so glad I started loving myself, I'm so glad I started acting with love in every single thing that I do, because this is true empowerment. This is true fulfillment. So sleep with this feeling, and I'll see you on Monday at 8:30 p.m. once again. You have the weekend. Go all out. Love yourself like you've never loved yourself before. I'll see you on Monday. Bye.